Hey guys, what's going on? It's your boy, SpotTheOzzie, coming at you once again with another live stream for the NRL Fantasy for round number 2. It's good to be back as the NRL Fantasy Fanatic for 2018. I'm just going to have to double check that the YouTube chat is working on the side so I can see what everyone's typing. It's back, boys, and it's better than ever. Thank you so much, everyone, for coming in so far. I'm going to give a quick shout out to those people who are watching live right now. We've got Liam Mate, Lockie Homewood, Pandush, Daniel Barbella, Aberdeen Lad, RC Biz, Isaac Leon, Aggressive Squid. We've got also Fletch. What's going on, Big Fletch? You love those highlight videos of the NRL, man. What's going on, Roddy McGrath? How are you, big fella? You doing well? Ricardo Rodriguez. How you going, Ricardo Rodriguez? What's going on, Sinji? How are you, boys? How did everyone go this week? We're in the NRL bunker yet again to decipher what happened last week. Was there any big movers? Was there any big shakers? Last week was a little bit up and down. I'm going to show my team on screen right now for your very own eyes. This is the round 1 squad that I'm just going to click on. And it was a little bit of an up and down week for myself, to be honest. It was quite good. There was some areas of improvement to be made, but we took a couple of handy risks that paid off for us. There was actually quite a lot of good players that played above their level, and there was a handful of people who played below their level. So I'm going to just recap my team from last week to see how they went. Cameron Smith, as the captain, played phenomenal. I don't know how he does it, but he just seems to generate fantasy points, even though when you're watching the Melbourne Storm play, there's not much going on. He's just a fantasy gun scorer, no matter what he's doing. Robbie Rochow played absolutely amazing. He played 80 minutes. He got 46 points, which is... he could have gone a little bit higher than that, but the reality is it was a low-scoring game for the Roosters and the Tigers across the board. So there wasn't much of a fantasy frenzy happening there regardless. But the reality is he played 80 minutes, and he seemed to be the preferred second rower for the Tigers team. And he looks to have cemented his position in there, despite a few people last week having their doubts sent to me via your PMs, via your YouTube live chats saying, I don't know, Robbie Rochow might be out the following week because of Chris McQueen, but Robbie Rochow looks to be good to go, and he's got the starting spot yet again this week. Handy for me to have. Paul Vaughan he played pretty well. He did a good job. I thought he scored a little bit more points than 44, just on observation alone, not by ticking down my little marginal book, but that's okay. He did get injured in the last 7 minutes of the game when he was supposed to play, so there's probably another 6, 7, 8 points. As you know, forwards who play later on in the second half, because of game fatigue, will generally score a bundle of more points than what they usually score in the first half, and that's just a case of stamina for your opposition. So he's going to be bouncing back this week, I'm sure of it. Angus Crichton had a little bit of a funny game. There were a lot of errors. There were a lot of missed tackles. I think if you got rid of all the errors and missed tackles, there was another 16, 18 points down the drain. But he still scored 58 points, which is quite phenomenal. And he's obviously a pick and stick. Jack de Belin played absolutely amazing. Very happy with that pick. Slade Griffin was the big surprise. Now, I knew Slade was going to be able to do the job at Newcastle. I was a little bit topsy-turvy about the fact that Slade Griffin was going to be playing hooker, and we don't know if it was going to be for 80 minutes. Was it going to be for 30 minutes, 20 minutes? He didn't play the full 80 minutes, but he capitalized getting an early try in the game. And even without the try, he still gets about the 50 to high 40s mark anyway. So he's definitely a lock-in. The fact that he's a dual position player, second row hooker at 428k, I'm going to take that every day of the week. He looks to be playing a good game moving into this week as well. So we'll have to see how he goes against the Raiders and what they're going to do with that team, because they've got the same bench rotation in regards to the utility of Brocky Lamb. So we'll see what happens there. Bryce Cartwright didn't play that great for the Titans. There were a lot of flick passes that went to absolutely no one. I think I counted 4 when I watched the game. Had all 4 of them connected. There was possibly a couple of breakthroughs, maybe a couple of offload points that went begging. But 30 points isn't that bad. It's not fantastic. It's about where his break even was anyway. He didn't lose any money. He gained a little bit, if anything, and I'm going to be holding him. Definitely, I'm going to be holding him. Connor Watson was a little bit disappointing. He went missing in the halves. Mitchell Pearce played absolutely phenomenal. If you watched the Newcastle game, Mitchell Pearce played absolutely phenomenal. The only problem with Pearce I found was that he's not a fantasy scorer like your Cameron Smith, because if you look up Pearce, he ended up only scoring 42 points despite, getting 5 points for a field goal. So deduct that, he'd only scored 37 points. But there was a lot of missed tackles by himself. Other than that, he seemed to have scored on like visually, he seemed to have scored a lot more points than what he was awarded. But that's the reality of your halves. They're going to be a little bit up and down. Hats off to those who stuck with your Shaun Johnson, who played absolutely phenomenal for the Warriors and scored a bundle of points. But I think the halves position's always going to be up and down. That's why I never put the full catering of my money. Shaun Johnson might, again, not have a great game this week. The other player that looked really good, but obviously had a lot of missed tackles, was James Maloney. Now, obviously, James Maloney is like Kieran Foran. They look great. They're great players to have in your actual team to be rooting for, but they're not fantasy scorers by any means. So he's always one of the first players up in the line of defense and is there to pretty much put a stop to the player, and then someone else will come in and then tackle that player. So he's always getting bounced off initially. That's why his score suffers. Richie Kennar had terrible reads in defense, but we don't worry about that stuff because we're fantasy coaches. Having a terrible read in defense doesn't deduct any points. In fact, it's a big 0. Every time the ball overlapped to his side, he was caught off position or too high up, and he didn't even get a touch on the defending player outside of him, which means he didn't get a missed tackle. So I'm happy. You guys should be happy that picked him. 49 points. Will he be able to score that again? It's yet to be seen, but we'll have to see how the baby bumbles, because with Richie Kennar, I think he's going to depend on tries being scored. Peta Hiku was absolutely terrible in the first half. I think he was on like negative 16 points or something like that. He had so many missed tackles. There was even a situation in the second half where if he offloaded the ball to his outside man, I think it was Shaun Johnson on the run, he would have got a try assist, a line break assist. He would have got, you know, another 10, possibly 15 points in there, but absolutely snubbed it. He looked to be running a lot more decoys for Fusatua, who ended up scoring quite a lot on the outside of him. So I'm not sure what's going to happen there. I'm going to be holding him because I think center is the weakest position this year. It's going to be that position where you try to fill the void in with your cheapest player because you don't want that inconsistency. I'm surprised to see so many players jump on Gagai, but you're probably glad you did. He ended up getting 48 points. It's going to be a little bit up and down. Now, my fullbacks were pretty great, except for our boy Kikau. Kikau ended up breaking his jaw. He was on -3, and then they awarded him a couple of more tackle bust, one more line run, and he ended up getting on 3, which is a positive score. Luckily for us, yes, he was way below his break even, but the minimal price that a player can be this season is $212,000, which means he didn't lose any dollar value. The only thing that sucked about him is that he literally sucked the blood out of all the teams that were in him when there was so many better options, like Corey Thompson, for example, who played absolutely phenomenal. He ended up getting 60 points. He was topped off with the fact of a late try, but even without the late try, he got a good bundle of points. Now, I think Corey Thompson's going to be up against the Melbourne Storm this week against Viliame. Is he going to be scoring that many points? Probably not. But is he still going to be good for your fantasy team in terms of getting cash? 110%. James Tedesco played okay. He fumbled a golden duck try, which all he had to do was just handle the ball. It was a little above his head, and he fumbled it, and it would have been over for sure. So there was another couple of points there. So he got -2 instead of getting the +8 and whatever, you know, the extra 10 meters that he would have run. So he loses out 11 points. So he would have ended up on 40. It was a little bit quiet to begin with, but again, it was a low-scoring game, so I'm not too concerned. The combinations with their halves were a little bit off, but that's going to be time. Kalyn Ponga was absolutely amazing. Scored a try in the first half. Played brilliantly. He does everything you expect him to do. He gets the ball, returns it. Even when nothing's happening, he's doing something like Jordan Rapana, where he runs up to the line, he steps one player who gets a hand on him, and then he gets the tackle bust points. And that's absolutely huge. So Kalyn Ponga, again, I think was a must-have. I think you had to have him. He's highly undervalued. He has gone up in price quite significantly. If you still don't have him, it's time to get him. He's still under $600,000 at $599, so it's not a cheap price tag, but you still want him. Ligi looked a little bit unfit on the team. He scored 33 points, so well above his break-even. In fact, I think it's double or just under double. So he's gone up about $22,000, so I was quite happy with his performance. Damien Cook, absolutely amazing. Can't take anything away from him. Again, another player that you should have in your team. Peter Godinot. Look, Peter Godinot didn't play the 80 minutes. Matt McGilgrick Mac McIlrick ended up coming on the team, taking quite a few points off him, but that was a given once Matt McIlrick went up onto the team. So he was a little bit of a disappointment, but he ended up scoring more than his break even, and that's what we want at the end of the day. Jesse Bromwich only scored 41. The better option there would have been Nelson Solomona. If you went Nelson Solomona, he looks absolutely amazing. He's going to be playing a lot more minutes, given that Jordan McLean is outside of the team. So the Brom Bomb, I'm going to be holding on to him for the very fact that I think he's undervalued, but I want to see him get more involved. Papalii, my boy, the New Zealand Warriors, he looked absolutely amazing. Yes, I know we got 46, and it was benefited on the back of a try, but he looked really good out there. He ran really good lines. He was solid in defense. He played a lot of minutes. I'm quite happy I've got him. Going to be keeping him. Mark Nicholls didn't play the amount of minutes I was expecting, but that's kind of a given. He did get more than his break even. That's what I'm happy for. He is on the bench this week. He's definitely a hold because you want to retain him while he's going to be still making money. Lachlan Croker was a little bit quiet against the Knights when they went down, and that's because the ball just went to Daly Cherry Evans, and when Lachlan Croker got the ball, it was all hospital passes, and he was tackled before he could even do anything with it. So maybe they might try to inject him a little bit more in the next week's game. I'm hoping so. Havili scored a try from dummy half against the Titans. He made it look so easy. The disappointing for the Canberra Raiders and Havili and anyone else who was supporting the Raiders was Aiden Caesar came on, and they didn't bring Havili back on until like 5 minutes to go. Absolutely crucial decision, terrible decision, because not only did it screw us fantasy coaches, but it probably screwed the Raiders given how poorly Caesar was giving away missed tackles. He was breaking up the center defense. He was giving away penalties. Like, there was an instance I remember in the second half when the Raiders had defended 2 back-to-back sets, and on the second set, on the fifth, Caesar, all he had to do was roll away out of it. Instead, he stayed there when they played it through dummy half. They ended up getting a penalty, and they scored a try off that 6. I don't know what they're going to do. Obviously, they've got him on the bench against the try. They're going to bring him back in. The biggest thing for me is they're paying a lot of money for Craig Garvey to play in the feeder club, which I don't understand. Is why do they go out of their way to go Craig Garvey if he's not going to play? Yes, I understand he's had some off-field dramas that I believe are well behind him, but I'd love to see Craig Garvey back in the hot seat. But without further ado, I want to get straight into my trades, and I'm going to start to answer all your questions that you guys are starting to come through a little bit later at the end of the session. This is going to be a quick video. I'm going to try to keep it under 30 minutes. Now, my trades this week, pretty straightforward stuff. Obviously, Katoa has to go, so I had to bring in Corey Thompson for Katoa. Now, why am I bringing in Thompson if I don't believe he's going to be scoring 60 anytime again soon? It's pretty straightforward stuff. He has a negative break even of 13. And this was one of the major things that I wanted to talk about in my fantasy video for round 2. And that is a really good resource that I've happened to come across in the NRL Fantasy Fanatics. Now, this is an independent page. It's not run by the NRL. It's not run by FanHub as far as I'm concerned. But this page, all you have to do is go to nrlfantasy.com.au/breakevens.php. I will copy and paste it into the chat room right now. And I'll put a link down in the comment section as well, so anyone can quickly click on it. And they can see all the benefits that they'd usually get if they were to pay for Fantasy Coach, the Super Coach, or the Fantasy Coach for the $20 a year or whatever it is, just to see their break evens. That's terrible. Let's admit it. Fantasy this year is going backwards yet again. Every year that NRL Fantasy releases its new app or new premise or new program or new format, it always rolls back. Something happens. And what happened this year? There is no match center. So if you're sitting at home, one of the best things that you want to do while you're watching the NRL is pop out your mobile and watch all the live scores from the players. Unfortunately, NRL Fantasy doesn't have that this year. It's coming soon. How soon? I've got no idea. No one really knows. They seem to have broken it yet again. So this is the first season where I'm not going to be paying for NRL Fantasy Coach. Not because I didn't really find a use for it, but simply because I don't want to be promoting a product or supporting a product, and every year there's a drama. Every year there's something different. Every year that they've gone backwards. I want them to pick up their act, pick up their slack, and maybe I'll make the decision to throw them a bit of coin for their coach, which I probably won't be using. So this resource right here, you can filter it by any means: last score, average points, player cost, predicted change ownership. But the most important thing you want to look at for the first couple of rounds or throughout the first half of the season is the break-evens. Because the price differences between players is so steep this year, we're going from $212,000 above $900,000, you want to make sure you capitalize on players that are going to be making coin early in the season. That way you can get to your finalized 17 players this year. In some ways, fantasy has been made a little bit easier this season from prior seasons because we've got less players, but we've also got bigger price differences. So if you just stack yourself with the better options for coins, then you're going to promote yourself in terms of your wallet and fund size to be able to buy those better players sooner rather than later. So you want to make as many early trades as you possibly can in order to put yourself up on the pedestal. So what can we see from the break-evens this week? Well, Kikau was our boy. He's on -15 break-even. He played absolutely phenomenal. I did not have him. I was a little bit skeptical on him because of his past performances last year when he played part-timely through the season. Played absolutely phenomenal. Now, the big breaking point was, prior to the game, 1 hour prior, he was named on the bench. And what happens is, when a player is named on the bench, they get minimal minutes. They're not going to have as big as an injection. But Kikau proved everything, all those stats, wrong. Every year, the Penrith Panthers seem to be able to promote a rookie in their system in the second row. Last year, it was CHN. He went absolutely phenomenal for a rookie. I think he came halfway through the season. Everyone was jumping on him. Made a lot of coin. It was a definite for the end of the year. The prior year, there was even another situation where that happened in Penrith as well. But the Kikau played absolutely amazing. I was disappointed not to have him. I thought, yes, he's playing on the bench. I'm not going to have any dramas. This is going to be good stuff. I'm going to be able to jump frog a few people, but he played absolutely phenomenal. The fact of the matter is, yes, he did score a try, but he was bumping players. He was running good lines. He was solid in defense. He was looking for the ball. These are all fantasy stats that you want. Even if he goes to the bench this week, last minute, not that big of a problem, because I think he's going to be kind of like the Fui Moi Moi, but probably not as explosive in terms of like breaking tackles, but explosive as in scoring fantasy points. So if you don't have him this week, you need to get him. So what have I done in order to grab him? What I've been able to do is I've traded in Kikau for Watson. How did I do that? My trade was, because I had Connor Watson in the halves and I had Lachlan Croker in my emergency, I've slid in Lachlan Croker for Connor Watson, not knowing if he is indeed going to score higher. I know a lot of people are going to keep the faith with Watson, but I don't know what's happening at Newcastle. We might find Watson might play less minutes. Brock Lamb was really effective when he came into the halves. Watson wasn't. Slade Griffin played absolutely amazing at the hooker role. It's going to be kind of confusing to see what kind of happens down the line. So I don't want to take a risk. I don't want to be losing money when I could be jumping on the bandwagon and pulling more money in from players like Kikau, who I know are going to be making money. Now you could say, well, Kikau might come in this week and only score 30 points. But if he scores 30 points again with a break-even of -15, that's 45 points in promotion. He's going to be making another 40, 50k easily. And that's what you want. We've been talking about that since week 1. You want to be able to make money. So I slid in Lachlan Croker. Yes, my halves are a little bit if-so, fact-so. But the reality is my bench and my emergency, I'm relying on that to pick myself up after a couple of weeks in order to get a higher price team. So I'm willing to sacrifice a couple of the earlier weeks just to get that higher price team. And in saying that, you never know. Lachlan Croker might pull out a good score. So I'm a little bit optimistic that Lachlan Croker might get a little bit more involved. So we'll see what that happens. But those are my two trades. I brought in Corey Thompson for Katoa, and I've also brought in Kikau for Watson. And in rotating my reserves, I've got Kikau, Damien Cook, Papalii, and Bromwich. On my emergency, I've got Godinet, who's down slid from the players, from the interchange. Mark Nicholls. Also, Ligi and Havili is also down there. Unfortunately, I would have loved to have Papalii up there last week, but I missed out and I ended up playing Ligi. Ligi looked solid, but he looked a little bit unfit. You know what I mean? He didn't look like he could play that many minutes. I think he ended up playing like 54 minutes, and I was a little bit skeptical once he came on the second time, a little bit puffed. But they've got him at lock, so he's going to be solid for scoring some points. But those are my trades so far. How do we rank? We scored 778 points, which you can see above me. Not a bad score. Not a terrific score. A terrific score this week was above 900. A great score this week was above 800. A good score was above 750. Anything below that, there's room for improvement. So I'm currently ranked 3,324th. But remember this, it's week 1. The amount of people from 750 points to 800 points is in the thousands. Like, literally, the difference between scoring 5 points in that bracket could be like 4,000 positions. So you got to keep the optimism a little bit. You can't go into the dumps. You can't be doing too big of a risky moves early on in the year and doing some garbage things. Like, I've already got some people asking me in the chat room right now, what are you gonna do? Are you gonna get rid of Tedesco because he lost a bit of money and only scored 29 points? And the answer is absolutely not, boys and girls. So I'm gonna be moving on to the Q&A. With Tedesco, there is no way that I'm absolutely getting rid of him because he is a final 17 player for me. He's gonna have, and a lot of guns are gonna have those off weeks, but they're consistently gonna score better than they're not gonna be scoring those lower scores. And that's what you want at the end of the year. You want the final 17 players to be the guys who got the total point scores. So those guys freaking out that their best gun or their most expensive gun didn't fulfill their duty or role or responsibility, calm it down, tune it down a little bit. One of the biggest mistakes I always see is people making unnecessary trades like that. You don't want to do that. Yes, we do have 34 trades this year. Yes, there's less of an emphasis on making trades this year or worrying about the amount of trades you make because we've got less players. But you don't want to be making bad trades. You don't want to be trading out Tedesco and bringing in Thompson. In fact, you don't want to be bringing out Tedesco at all. The only concern is if one of them are injured or there's a niggle. Like Adam Reynolds, who I think a lot of people are starting to ask about right now, boys. And he's being replaced. He's out for apparently a month, give or take a week or two in there. So maybe 3 weeks, maybe 5 weeks. Who knows with Adam Reynolds? Every year, their marquee player or one of their marquee players, Adam Reynolds, seems to always get injured. I don't know what to say about that, but he always seems to get injured. It's like his thing to get injured. He always has a niggle. There's always something there. So Reynolds is out. And the Lebanon half that played along Mitchell Moses is back in. He's playing at a rookie price of $212,000. The only problem I have with the pack for the, team list, round 2. The only problem I have with Adam, bringing him in from the Rabbitohs, yes, he is going to make coin. But if he doesn't play that great, I'm expecting... This is what I'm expecting, and this might not happen, but this is a little bit of a fiddle. I'm expecting Alex Johnson to possibly go to the halves. And that's a little bit scary, because they can bring Greg Inglis to the fullback, push out Adam from that team into the reserves for the following week. In saying that, is that going to happen? Probably not. But I think the halves, I think if you already have Lachlan, Croker, and another half in there... There's no need to pull the trigger. If you're trying to make money for another second trade, by all means do it. But don't be making a trade where you're trading out Sean Johnson for this kid. If you've got Adam Reynolds, I'm all happy with that trade. I'm all good with that trade. Just be a little bit weary that he's got a tag on him with a warning that says if he plays bad, he may not play the following week. So... anything can happen with that team. Who knows? I don't know. They might even put Greg Inglis into the halves. They've done it before. He didn't live up to the halves position, but they've done it before. They did it last season and the season before. I don't know what's going to be happening with Greg Inglis. And that's another question I think I've just got coming through is, should I be trading in Greg Inglis? I think not so much because he's a little bit weary. He didn't look that effective in the first week, and he looks a little bit injured. But I'm going to start moving back onto the questions. And just to finalize that question, just to bring clarity, Adam, is he a legit half? Look, he's legit half if you bring him into your starting 17. If you're going to have halves in your emergency, there are way better options if you're trying to make money. And that's your second row and your front row forwards. There are way better options. There are so many better options. But if you need the money, like you just need that little bit more money, and you've missed the boat on the other players, then that's the time to kind of consider doing that trade. Otherwise, I wouldn't do it because you're going to make that trade in possibly 2 weeks, 3 weeks, going to have to make that trade back. But it's a risk you're willing to take. All right, let's start getting into those questions. Enough about my team. I'm going to have to start looking a little bit up and down. I'm going to go from the top to the bottom. So give me a second while I reconcile what's happening in the chat. There's a lot of questions at the moment. We've got a question from Roddy McGrath. Ooh, that's not a question. That's a statement. He said, duds, Katoa, Thurston, Tedesco, James. Again, I don't think Tedesco is going to be that much of a dud. You'll just have to see it play out. Yeah, maybe a dud for week 1. But, you know, we'll see what happens from there, big fella. We'll see what happens from there. Have another look. Do I like rugby union? You know what? I actually played rugby union. I never played rugby league. I ended up breaking a collarbone. Wasn't the most funnest experience, but I love playing rugby union. There's something about playing that game. I love watching rugby league, but I love playing rugby union. Is that a little bit of a thing? I can't watch rugby union. But maybe if we can keep the questions to fantasy related, or you can keep personal questions. Just ask me any questions, man. That's all good, dude. What's going on, Chris Miller? How are you, dude? Hey, how are you? Owen Shaw, how are you, man? Is Teddy a trade? Nah, no way, man. Just covered that a little bit earlier. I wouldn't look at doing that trade. Is JT a trade? Yes or no? Form's dropped a bit. I think it's too early. I think it's way too early to make a call. I think JT, Jonathan Thurston, if that's the JT you're talking about, not like James Talmo. I don't know. I don't think it's a trade. I think you've picked him at the start of week 1 for a reason. And you're going to have to see how he goes. It's like the James Tedesco thing. These guys are guns. You're going to have to see it. And that's the thing. I don't like spending money in my halves, period. Because they're up and down each and every week. I remember there was a time when Anthony Milford was like that as well, like 2-3 seasons ago. Even when he played for the Raiders and he was like fullback then in the halves, he did exactly the same thing. He'd go up and down. It's like a yo-yo. You've got to go in there. What does DMP mean? It says did not play. So if you had a player that didn't end up playing, you've got a big 0 next to him, baby. Unlucky about that. Unlucky. It's really important to make sure you check the last minute team lists that come out. Usually the NRL.com publishes them, but there's other resources like the Fanatics pages and the Facebook groups that you can check that will post them up in live game threads if you're keen to just keep a bit of an eye out. Fergus Berry says Katoa a sell or keep. Thinking of trading him to Azaiko, Klepi, Tanganoa. Tanganoa, can I just say, was an absolutely surprise package for me. As a Parramatta Eels fan, I love Klepi. I don't think he was utilized properly. We ended up trading him to the Cowboys, and I think he came back, and then he ended up going to Manly. He was phenomenal off the bench. He was like fui moi moi. He came off, impacted the game, ran straight, ran hard. Got those tackle busts. The only problem with him is he going to be getting the minutes required? I'm not sure. Katoa is definitely a sell. For me, I'm bringing in Corey Thompson for him. Could you trade him to Azaiko? You could, but the problem there, if Jack Bird comes in and pushes KU to the wing, Azaiko might be the next guy gone. He might be the first guy on the chopping block. So that's going to be a bit of a question mark for you to kind of fizz up. There's a couple of things to consider. You can't afford Thompson, already have Kennar. I think if you can make another trade, so you can make that trade to Thompson, it probably would be worth it. Like myself, I've brought out Watson to bring in Croker, and I've made that trade. Out of the 3, if I had to have an option, probably Tanganoa. I don't know. There's something about him. I don't think he's going to be leaving anytime soon. And if there are any injuries to the starting second rowers or Manly, I think he might even get a starting spot. That's how much of an improvement I've seen from him. Maybe it's not even an improvement. I think just getting that much required attention, or like the fact that if you watch the Manly game, you would have noticed it was a boulder dash breaking through people. You know, it was phenomenal. And I'm sad to have seen him leave the Parramatta Eels or be traded out forcefully. Cricket Mistro says, I scored 1 more point to him. Unlucky, dude. You'll get there. You'll get there. Don't even worry about it, man. Don't even worry about it. Ozzy, do you play Super Brew? I'm not sure what Super Brew is, so I'm going to say no to that one. Owen Shaw says, currently have Whitehead in my team. Should I consider trading him out for Murray? As Whitehead is in the second row and less likely to get more base stats than Murray at lock. Whoa, okay. Yeah, look. Who? This is going to be a tough one because I'm surprised Murray's coming into the starting side because he didn't have that much of an impact when he came into the game. And I'm surprised they've pushed Sam Burgess to the prop position. That's a confusing thing for me. Does that mean Sam Burgess will be playing prop, or they're going to move him to lock and bring out Cameron Murray and then bring in Tyrell or like a Mark Nicholls or a George Burgess? Like, what are they going to do? Like, have a look at their side. Mark Nicholls is a forward. George Burgess is a forward. I don't know, man. That one's probably for you to decide. Murray looks cheap. Why don't you have a look at his break-even? He ended up scoring 22. Let's have a look at his break-even right now. His break-even is 46. Now, you could grab Cameron Murray next week if you think he's going to not score as many points as 46. I think there's a very good chance that he's not going to score as many points as 46. In fact, given the predicted change based on his last 3 scores, which again brings in last season and is not to be replicated as a genuine score because he didn't start in those games, is going to be negative 18 grand. So I don't think he's going to be scoring any more than 46. As for Whitehead, you brought him in for a very good reason. I'd hold him. He might be playing 80 minutes, Whitehead, at second row. He scored 49. I think he's a hold, man. I wouldn't be trading him. I wouldn't be looking at making that decision just yet. What should you do with Croft and SST? Dude, Croft looked terrible out there, didn't he? It's going to be interesting to see what they do with Cameron Munster now coming into the halves and Billy Slater back to fullback. Is Croft going to be the go-to guy in the halves? And are they just going to rely on Munster to be the runner? I don't know. All I know is you pick Croft for a very good reason. Do you want to under-trade him? It's kind of like my Watson trade, except Croft was a lot more expensive. I think it was like $150,000 more expensive than Watson. That's again going back to my first week. I don't like to put money into my halves if I don't have to. I ended up taking a swipe at Watson at $401,000 and it didn't pay dividends for me. So I'm getting rid of him. So on that note, possibly, but he could bounce back this week. There's all the right signs that he's going to be playing just as well as this week coming up, as well, much better than the prior week. Given that the fact that, you know, they're up against the Tigers. Yes, the Tigers went to push over for the Roosters, but the Roosters didn't play great or brilliant. I just think the Tigers just held in there by their teeth. So, look, I wouldn't have Croft in the first place. If I had him in my team instead of Watson, I'd be trading him out because I'm just willing to risk it with Croker and form my bench of non-half players. That's pretty much me. Kieran Homer says, the other question you had with there was SST. Well, he did not look that great or flashy, did he? Especially given that he's not going to be kicking. He didn't play the minutes that everyone thought he was going to do. And is he a hold? I think he's a hold. I think you've got to see how he goes this week and not pull the trigger just yet. You chose him for a reason. Choo! Expect him
Hello,
to...
brother.
Thank you so much, Honey Thakur, for the $5. Really appreciate it, my man. Can we get a hashtag Honey Thakur in the chat? Where was I? SST. I would hold on for him for the very reason that you might find. Oh, I've got to turn that off. Uh-oh. Alright, we might just put the music off just for our NRL fantasy streams. But I think you want to be holding on to SST just to see how he goes. He doesn't have the kicking duty. It's a little bit unlucky. You've taken a punt on him. Just stick with it. See how it goes. And that was real confusing, guys, because I wasn't expecting to get any donations via my NRL fantasy. That's why when people donate, it starts to play music, whatever they want to pick in the jukebox. I'm going to have to mute that for my NRL fantasy streams in the future. Thank you so much for the donation. Really appreciate it, my man. So I'm going to keep going through. Is RFM a must-have given he's an 80-minute player? Look, he played absolutely phenomenal. He looked the goods. Unfortunately, I missed out on him. But I've kept my premise of keeping the higher players and the lower players at the start of the year. I'm happy with the guys I have. If you can bring him in, bring him in. But don't bring him in for a sideways trade. Will he be playing 80 minutes every week? There's a good possibility. The coach seems to really like him. But I would rather take someone like a Kikau who I know is going to be making a lot more money. Yes, RFM's going to be making quite a bit of money, but I think Kikau's going to be making more. So if you have to decide between the two, I'd be taking Kikau. If you could bring in RFM, bring him in. But I'm in no rush. I'm quite happy with my forwards and second rows, and everyone's making money on my bench, so I don't have a reason to myself. What other questions do we have? Roddy McGrath says, should I move Cartwright to emergency and move Kikau to bench? Ooh. Can you move Cartwright to your halves? Because I think it's better to have a second rower playing in your halves than him playing in your emergency and then not having a half in the first place that's playing there to begin with. That would be personally me. I'd move Kikau up to the bench. I'd be playing Kikau in your 17. You need to be able to get those points from him. Nathan says, I'm a bit worried about Crofty as a B of 49. Don't want him to lose a heap of cash. Look, if he loses the cash, that's very unfortunate. I think I answered that a little bit earlier. I'd be moving him out, but that would be me. Given the team that I've got now and that I wanted to bring in Kikau and Thompson. Is Inglis a hold? He looked a bit slow. Yeah, he didn't look like Inglis of old, did he? He looked Inglis of new. He didn't look like the same shade of player that we're used to seeing. He wasn't breaking the lines. He wasn't doing anything. He wasn't doing anything groundbreaking, which was a little bit not so surprising for me, given the fact that he's coming back from an injury. That's why I didn't pick him up in the first place. It's going to be hard to pick a replacement center, though. But if you can make the trade, I'd be looking at possibly Kennar as really the only other option at center that's cheap at the moment. Why don't you do Super Rugby? I think Fantasy has the better platform and has a lot more players playing in it as well. It's a fantastic game. It's absolutely amazing. I don't think it has the same premise, Fantasy, for Rugby Union. Unless you meant, why don't I play Super Rugby 14s like myself? Yeah, I'm like a stick, dude. I get broken. That's why I broke my collarbone. But thanks very much, man. Primal says, lol, what if he's bad? He's talking about, this is going back to the Sows. Farah's going to be in the halves. Dude, I don't know, man. That's what I'm saying before. Adam might not be playing in the halves that long. So that's pretty much another point to consider for anyone bringing in Adam this week. Farah might come in. I don't know about Farah, man. He doesn't seem to be in favor with the coach. I don't know if he wants him to let him slide into the 17. Maybe he thinks he's toxic for the team if you let him in. We're going to have to wait to see about that, boys. I took out Napa for Robbie Rochow. Is that a good trade? Look, is Napa still on the bench? I think he is, isn't he? Which was a surprise. Look, he's on the bench, man. He's not playing that many minutes as a result, and it's disappointing. Unless he gets a front bench, unless he gets a starting spot, you don't want to be playing him, in my opinion. You know what I mean? So Robbie Rochow is going to be solid. That's why I've already brought him in. There are other options, but if it's front row, Robbie Rochow is just as good. Kikau would be even better because he's got that dual position. Ricardo Rodriguez says, would you consider Griffin a must-have? I already have RFM, but I have an idea of swapping Lodge for Griffin. But I sort of feel like that's a bit sideways trade. Plus, Lodge did have a good run-in meters. You know what? I think Lodge did exactly what I thought he was going to do. He scored low 30s. I think he scored 30, like, on the dot. And I kind of expected him to do that. And he had a couple of errors in there. Simi, do you mind closing that window? There is some kid outside the apartment banging a hammer against the table or something. It's absolutely driving me insane. What the hell is going on out there, Simi? You're telling me what's going on out there? Anyway, we've got to... Can you close the window, please? Yeah. Don't just stand there. Thanks very much, Simi. I appreciate it. Love you, Simi. Love you. Would I consider a Griffin a must-have? I don't think he's a must-have. I think he's great for your team. I think he's got a lot of points in him. Just because he scored 1 week really well, he's not going to be doing that each and every week. If you can trade him out for Lodge, I think you'd be promoting your team. I think Lodge is still going to make money. What's going on, Simi? The kid's banging the sculpture in the middle. Yeah. Wow, what a champion. He's making as much noise being a little shit. Okay. Oh, I shouldn't have said that. Sorry, boys. Hey, Matty460, how are you, dude? Thanks for coming in, my man. Captain and vice captain for round 2. Look, I'm sticking with Cameron Smith. He just makes points. Even though you don't... Even He just makes points, even though he doesn't do much, or doesn't appear to be much. Cricket Mistral says, considering Havali only played 35 minutes and got 32, is it worth having him on the bench rather than Cartwright? And is Cameron King worth it? I don't think Cameron King's worth it. I think he's too expensive for what he's going to be promoting. There's so many better hookers out there to have. Damien Hook at hooker. Damien Cook, not Hook. He'd be absolutely amazing to have. I think he's a great player already. Again, I'll be playing Cartwright in my halves because I don't like to have the buoyancy of halves. They're up and down scores. So I'm yet to see Cartwright pay off, but I'm hoping this week's going to be the big one. Havili, I'm putting him in my emergency, man. That's personally myself. Good luck with whatever way you're going to be bumping in there. Is there any other questions? Ozzy, what you eat at Macca's? I try to avoid Macca's and all fast foods in general if I can. It's not good for you. And yeah, you know, you got to keep a healthy diet. You got to keep that figure up, boys. Relapse says, go choke slam the kid, please. IRL stream. You know what? I would consider it, but got to get on with the show, boys. Just roguing around. Anyway, boys, thank you so much. I think that's a bit of a wrap and a tap for this week's video. This has been round 2. Thank you so much for coming in. Appreciate you guys supporting the stream. Love yous, but I've got to leave yous. And I want to say a mad shout out. If you guys want to join my league, it's in the video description down below. I'll also post a link in the comments section as well, so you can quickly navigate your way there. If you're trying to look for me on Twitter, there is a Twitter link just down below as well as my Discord. Come into the Discord. We're always talking NRL Fantasy. There's an NRL Fantasy page, which prior to games, we're always making suggestions or player trades, or people are giving their opinions about other people's teams, which is absolutely fantastic, building a community around there. Where can we catch up on your updates, on your trades before the game? I'll generally post them in the comment section of the YouTube video. So like on the Thursday, I'll post a bit of an update, but the Discord is where you'll get the live updates of everything that I'm possibly looking at doing. And it's really important to keep up to date with your last minute trades or anything that's happening in the team list, because that can make or break your team, especially if you've got a player playing and they pull him out last minute because of an injury. Like Kikau, for example, apparently has a pectoral injury, but he's going to play. So we're going to have to wait to see what happens last minute about that, boys. And I'm going to end the stream now. Thank you so much, everyone, for coming in. This has been your boy, SpotTheOzzie. Be sure to check me out on Twitter, Discord. Hit me up on the Facebook group. And I'll talk to you boys later. Take care.